Disgaea 5 is a nearly endless game. You have the main story, and after the main story you have the post-game. The post-game is set in the Carnage dimension, where all the enemies are level 9999 and what matters is increasing your unit stats to numbers in the tens of millions, and then to hundreds of millions, in order to defeat Tyrant Overlord Baal. Then after defeating Baal, you defeat Prinny Baal, whose stats are even higher. I presume, since I haven't actually beaten Baal myself. The closest I've gotten is getting a unit up to the point where they don't immediately die on exiting the base in Baal's stage. But for the dedicated, beating Prinny Baal is only the beginning, since you can then increase his strength up to 20 times using the cheat shop. But to even get to a point where you can even consider fighting him, you need to understand how Disgaea's tangled pile of systems work together well enough to exploit them. For instance, other reviewers talking about Disgaea will mention how the level cap goes up to level 9999. They don't mention how you reincarnate the unit and their level at reincarnation goes into their total overall level. Now, you just heard something crazy there, so let me repeat myself. Level 9999 is the base level that you cap out at before reincarnating, but the character keeps their total level of all their reincarnations stored. But I think this is an interesting metaphor for playing Disgaea. When a unit reincarnates in Disgaea, they keep a proportion of their stats and skills, but start over from the beginning. Getting back to the point they were at before takes considerably less time, even if that point is some absurd place far beyond where any reasonable level cap would have stopped. If they were at a higher level when they reincarnated, they have more of a boost since they got to pick from one of the better reincarnations, netting them more points to play around with for their base stats. Now, as I mentioned a few months back, I've been replaying Disgaea 5 on the Switch recently. At time of writing, I'm only about 20 hours into it. My average party level is about 45, with a couple characters in the mid-70s and one character over level 100. For a typical Disgaea playthrough, it generally takes about 60 hours to get a character over level 100, due to suboptimal grinding and paying attention to the main story. Judging by the level of enemies I'm facing in the main story, I'm at a level about 3 to 5 times higher than I ought to be at this point. So what's changed? Well, from my playthroughs of Disgaea D2, 5, and 4 on the Vita, I know that I should unlock the cheat shop as soon as humanly possible, and set it to max out XP as best I can. I also know to abuse the fuck out of any stage I can find with the XP boosting geo panels. I also know that I should use the cheat shop to increase the level of enemies on that stage to grind better. Optimally, I'd hope for an enemy at level 99, since I know that Disgaea changes the way the XP is given out at level 100 in such a way that the amount of experience given out by a level 99 monster is identical to the amount given out by a level 323 monster. I can't quite get that yet, but just taking advantage of these facts means that I've cut the amount of time I need to spend grinding by a ton, even if it's not perfectly optimal. This is where the reincarnation metaphor comes in. Starting the experience over again with a new game, I now have a better base understanding of how Disgaea works overall. The last time I played it, I got pretty far in, making it a few worlds into the Carnage dimension by the time I stopped. My grasp of the mechanics was pretty decent, but not perfect. However, because I had a decent grasp of what was going on last time, I was able to get further, faster on this playthrough. This is analogous to the way the reincarnation system works. As mentioned earlier, when you reincarnate a unit, you're able to get to where you were faster, and your base abilities are improved. What I'm saying here is that the player is essentially also a unit that levels up and reincarnates in Disgaea. It's just that the player's level is measured in hours, and their reincarnation level is how many times they've played the games in the series. How many points they get to play around with reincarnation depends on how far they got in the previous playthrough and how much attention they were paying to all the systems. Now, is this an intentional, for real thing intended by the developers? No, of course not. It's an interesting metaphor I'm using to articulate the point that the act of playing Disgaea is a lot like the thing it's representing. Disgaea is a game whose sole purpose is to communicate one idea in every conceivable form possible and at every level possible. Disgaea is a parody of grindy video games and a celebration of them. You can grind anything with a number attached to it in Disgaea. Weapons, stats, resistances, stages, levels, skills, capabilities, max levels, bribery, and on and on. I mean, for fuck's sake, farming abilities is done by literally putting equipment's abilities in a farm and breeding them like chocobos. Now, I think that a lot of the conversation around Disgaea doesn't really talk about what it's like to replay it, or why one should play more games in the series, and that's a shame. The experience of gradually realizing what each level system does is pleasurable, immensely pleasurable, and it's a considerable part of the reason that I continue to play these games. There are so many systems that reward the player in little ways for engaging with them by improving what the player can do in combat. It's grinding, sure, but the purpose of grinding in Disgaea is to get just a bit further, to defeat the next strong enemy. Or it's to figure out how to make the systems interact in a way that reduces the amount of time needed to grind to get the next cool thing. Now, it occurs to me that this sounds a bit like what free-to-play games do, in reducing grinding time. But the difference between Disgaea and free-to-play games is as follows. In a free-to-play game, grinding is a boring, tedious slog that makes you hate the game and is always trying to wring money out of you. Disgaea's grinding is fun, but reducing the grind means gaining a deeper understanding of how the system works, and how to exploit the systems in play. Disgaea rewards being clever, but doesn't punish more casual players who are just there to play through the story. Disgaea is not trying to exploit players, it's trying to get players to exploit it, and a free-to-play game is trying to exploit the player. And that's the difference between grinding in Disgaea and grinding in a free-to-play game. All in all, that's what I think of Disgaea right now. I expect I'll come to a different understanding as I play more of it, because Disgaea is the sort of game that changes along with you. I think that right now, with a bit over 500 hours put into the series, I'm on the verge of understanding what the purpose of the item world is, and how to use it more effectively. My current guess is that it's there because the developers understand that playing in new stages is a necessary component of keeping players engaged. It's also there for boosting an item's abilities, and as a means of getting the best equipment. But I think I'll grasp it better in a few hundred hours. I'll keep you guys posted. Thanks for watching. Later.